Time for another episode of Ham Nation. We've had some severe weather. We're going to talk to Don Arnold, who lives in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, and it came real close to him. He's going to have a little after-action report on that. We're going to talk about Zoom security because, well, that's how we're all talking to each other. If we're not on the ham radio, we're on Zoom or Skype or Microsoft Teams or some other conference thing. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about ham radio bicycle mobile. We're going to do a little pine board action, a little Arduino action. We're going to see what Dr. T says the sun is doing. And then Amanda's going to come at the end and she's going to yell at the dogs. It's going to be a great show. You're going to love it. We got it all for you coming up right now here on Ham Nation. Ham Nation is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether they're working in the office or remote. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by Icom. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation. And by DX Engineering. DX Engineering offers practically everything you need to outfit your shack, plus the fastest shipping in the industry. Most in-stock items ship the same day, Monday through Friday until 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit dxengineering.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 449 for April 15th, 2020. Zoom security, bicycle mobile, and more.
Hi, everybody. It's Bob Heil, and you're tuned to Ham Nation. It's a program about ham radio, but it's also a program about communications of how we ham radio operators can save lives and sometimes our own lives, but we have some real experts here tonight that's going to help us tell a little bit about that, and especially some things about Zoom. There's a lot of rumors running around about Zoom, and maybe we can clear a few more up tonight. And of course, we've got Gordo with us. Gordon, how are you?
All is well on the West Coast, and we can't wait to hear from these experts. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, we'll be back, and you have some, I think it's footage actually of some of the devastation and the storm down around Chattanooga. So we'll look for that in just a little while. But what I'm going to do first, I'm going to bring a good buddy, W3FF, good old Bud Drummond. Hello, Bud. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for asking. Well, what a treat to see you guys together. Oh, you've been together a long time, but I don't see you together like on here as much as I should have.
Well, we're really happy that you're here. And the reason he is here, everybody, is yesterday. You probably, all of you know, if you watch the show and listen, I have not put up any antennas here, just a couple of silly wires. And I've got a 20-meter dipole, and it's, let's see here. It's stuff like this that I cut 20 meters and threw it in a tree. But yesterday, I'm listening on 17 meters, and here is W3FF bicycle mobile. I'm going, what? And we started talking to each other, and then a whole bunch of guys got in. So I said, you got to come on here and tell us a little bit about what in the world is going on 18157.5, Bud. Let us hear what's happening.
Okay, well, every day at 1800, a number of us get on 18157.5, and it's called the 17-meter activity group. We like it because the band is open, and it is amazing how many people are sitting there, and they're not transmitting. So what we decided to do was just call it an activity group. We don't have enough money to make it a net now, no net. So what we've decided to do is just make it an activity group. And wow, it's been a hoot. Hawaii and the Caribbean and Northern South America, all over the United States. Normally 20 to 30 guys a day show up. There's no net. And it's just a matter of a free-for-all. But there's so many courteous operators out there. It just makes it a blast. Now, a couple of days ago, Bob Heil sent me a note and said, hey, I think I'm going to try to join you here. So I hyped it up and I said, Heil's going to be there. And so many guys were listening for him. And it was not a great propagation day. But we caught him yesterday or the day before, and it worked out. A bunch of guys really, really enjoyed it. Over.
Exactly. Well, the thing that
I say over.
The thing that intrigued me was your rig, and there is a picture of what you use. Tell us a little bit about this mobile. This is really super.
Well, it's a Lightfoot cycle from Montana. It's 29 gears, and it's got Shimano brakes on it. It's fast, and I'm not fast. I'm 80, so I'm not too fast on it. But it corners well, and it does well. And I have a little trailer that's a dog trailer, and on it is an Maritron 500 ALS 500 amp, and I've got a Duracell battery on there, which is an ultra battery. Does a really good job. And what I do is just go out for maybe an hour or so, and I can run about I could pull 40 amps on voice peaks at 12 volts, and on sideband that puts me a good hour on the amplifier. And then the FT857D is sitting under me on that platform. You can see it's a seat there, just below the two wheels. And it's got an FT857 sitting backwards, so I can get to all the control features there. And of course, a Heil headset sits on the handlebars, and the head of the radio is on the handlebars also. The antenna is a buddy pole. It's up 8 feet. I don't want to get more RF on my noggin, so I decided to go to an antenna that's a little higher than me. I used to run it on the as a vertical on the side, easy to do, but this is better to keep the RF off of you. And frankly, when I get someplace, I can put that up to 15 feet or so and let her rip, Bob. Over.
Yeah, well, here's another view for us also. This is your 6-meter Delta loop. That's pretty cool, bud.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a Delta loop quad, and my son owns the Buddy Pole company, and I just made some parts up. You can do this, frankly, with PVC and whips, but it is so much fun on 6 because you get out there, and I just run 100 watts, and you turn around in a cul-de-sac, and the guy disappears, and he comes up, and you're starting thinking, hey, this is cool, man. This is ham radio.
Well, here's the one I love. Look at this mobile, Gordon West.
Oh, wow.
What is it?
It's a 1930 Model A Ford, and there's another picture of it, too. I've got a shock-corded whip on the back normally, and a capacity hat. And so there you go. There you go, right there. And that is so much fun. The only thing that doesn't make it look stock is that I put a 12-volt system in so I can run a battery in there so I can run my amplifier.
Oh, ham radio is at best. Well, it's just so much fun that you guys have on that frequency. I'm going to hang out there a little bit, but the fun comes when you guys go down to the islands. Tell us a little bit about some of these excursions.
Oh, that was a really fun time, and I haven't been down there, frankly, for a couple of years now because of propagation. But that particular picture was taken in Beckway down in the Caribbean. I've been down there maybe 15 times with buddies, and this is how it works. We just ask our friends to show up down there. We get a group together, 6 or 8 guys. We rent a 6,000 square foot villa. We eat and have parties and play ham radio. Half of the guys are at the villa working, bang, 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 working a lot of stations. And the other 4 guys normally are on the beach or on the mountains, and it's all portable. And it's just a matter of having fun every day.
Yeah, my God. Wait a minute. We had there's VP2M. You go to Montserrat also, right?
Yeah, I've got VP2 Mike Fox down there. And that particular beach is a beauty, by the way. And I talked to VP2 MNI, my good friend Frankie, the other day, and he and his friend walked to that beach. It's over a little hill you have to go over, and walked to that beach. There's nobody down there. It's wonderful. I turned around one day, and Chris was, my son Chris is ham also, and he was with me. And I turned away, and when I turned back, I noticed something behind me, and there was a beautiful iguana, and it had to be 3 feet long, and I had never seen one up close like that. So I moved rather quickly.
I'll tell you what, bud, this is going to be fun. Gordo, we'll have to go down and join them sometime. I don't know if we'll be able to cut the mustard with these guys, but it'd be kind of fun, I tell you. Well, we're all going to be listening. Now, before you go, I know you don't probably want to talk about this, but I will. For all of you watching this, Bud's company is the Buddy Pole. And it's one of the things that I know so well about your company, Bud, is that you'll sell parts and pieces. You let guys build their own. And there's a lot of guys that they like to build things, but they can't find the parts. You can supply them. All they got to do is call your number, and away you go. I'm really thrilled about that, because we're kind of the same way. We try to help people. Our products can be fixed if they're broken. If you want to do something special, well, that's really cool, because your Buddy Pole antenna is just super duper. And I want Gordo to step in here, because Gordo uses them quite often. Gordon, you use one on the beach, don't you?
We use it both on the beach as well as maritime mobile. Sometimes we use them as a vertical with an existing ground plane below them. And sometimes we use them end to end, the classic Buddy Pole. But Bud, I want to know, with the antenna relatively close to the Heil headset, and Bob's done a great job of making sure no RF is going to get into it. How do you keep the RF out of the 857 and just getting onto any of the wires with that amount of power? How do you do it?
That's a good question. But, you know, as Bob has said in previous episodes here on Ham Nation, it's not the microphone. It's how you get that. It's the RF. And so you have to watch that RF and make sure that it doesn't get down there. So you could use a choke balun, easy way to do that. Maybe 6 or 7 turns, close 6-inch turns up there at the antenna itself. That's one way to do it. And you could use a balun is a good way. But that's how to do that. And the thing is, whenever you get that antenna a little bit further away, it's much easier to control the RF, as you guys know.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Bud, and so great to see you. I'm sorry we won't see you this year at Dayton Hamvention, but we know you're always out there and certainly on the air. Back to you, Bob.
All right. Well, thanks, Bud. I really appreciate you coming on. And I have one other little question that we want to answer. Amanda just sent it to me. Talk to us a little bit about your capacity hat. Tell the audience of what you're doing with your capacity hat on your Model A.
Okay, well, 13 feet 6 inches is as high as you can go here in California for a mobile antenna. And my idea is always to get that antenna as long as possible to be practical, you know. So what it does is it takes 5 feet off the top of that antenna. So the capacity hat has a circular a piece of wire around those tiny elements going out there. And it simply makes that antenna 8 feet tall instead of 13 feet tall. And it makes it easier to get down the road so you don't hit trees. But that particular cap hat weighs 2 ounces, 2.2 ounces. So, you know, it's nothing thing. And it really works. It's a cool thing. That was a very good question, by the way.
Excellent question from Amanda, and she'll be on in a while with the chat room, and she'll have some more questions, I'm sure. Well, thank you for coming on, Bud. It's just so cool to have you on, and we'll be seeing you tomorrow on absolutely 18157.5, right? Don't forget the 5. And we're going to have to learn more about the buddy poll here. Maybe we'll have you come back and we'll build one or do something like that. So I appreciate you coming on. Thanks so very much.
It's my pleasure. I have one last question, if I could, Bob, and one more question.
Sure.
Does Gordon have shorts on?
We'll never know.
Well, there ought to be a there's going to be a segment about that, isn't there, someday?
Yeah, we will.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks. You're both wonderful ambassadors. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Bud.
Thank you. If you don't have fun on ham radio, don't get around Bud Drummond, let me tell you.
What a great guy.
Isn't that great? That's just great. Well, Bud made quite an impression with me in his bicycle mobile the last couple of days. Listen in on 18157.5 and 1800 there. They have quite a group there. And I didn't think the bands were open. I mean, I've got this stupid antenna. I showed you this nib, but it's something like that. Cut for 20 meters, Gordo. I'm on 18.157 because I heard some activity. 20 was pretty dead. And these guys, they got 15, 20 guys like, who says the bands are dead, right, Gordon? So
that's right.
And I tuned up to 6 meters with that same piece of wire. I mean, the SWR is way off the scale. So for everybody worrying about it, it was way off the scale. And I listened in on 6, and there was a K2 coming in, and I worked him. I was an S5 in New Jersey. And so here again, everybody, I grew up in a time in ham radio we didn't know, we didn't care what SWR was. We didn't know about it. And we just kind of cut the antenna and worked. Am I wrong about that, Gordo?
No, you're right, because the old-time radios had plate and load and tune, so you could make up for a pretty lousy antenna by finally finding the dip if you didn't burn out the 807s first.
Well, I'm gonna be watching him. Well, Gordon, we have a really special thing coming here. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about this? Curt has accepted the invitation to be here, so you and Curt take over for a minute and let us know about.
All right. We had so many comments, Curt, from a couple weeks ago when we had an expert in getting started on Zoom. But Curt, you are the man there at the studio. So how about telling us some of the most popular questions and some of the worries that some folks have regarding Zoom security that I understand have been fairly well cured. Curt?
Very true. Well, thanks for having me on. This is a great treat for me to come over from This Week in Enterprise Tech and be here with you on Ham Nation. You know, we had sort of a perfect storm happen with Zoom. Here it was, a fairly nice, low-cost video conferencing service, and they had grown by emphasizing ease of use over management and security. And for a long time, that worked reasonably well. At Dark Reading, where I'm an editor, we had talked about some of the issues as long ago as last fall, but they didn't really come into focus until this spring, when all of a sudden, everyone, everywhere was doing things over video conference. And Zoom was the video conference of choice, again, because it didn't require any money up front, and they had emphasized ease of use. Now, of course, in doing that, they left themselves open to some security issues. What kind of issues? Well, 3 of them were things that came to the fore. First, to make it super easy, the default was that a video conference did not require a password. Someone setting it up could add that in, but it wasn't the default. Next, if you were on screen and did, say, a screen capture that you were going to share on another social media, the meeting ID would be up in the little bar over your head. And would be visible. And so if you didn't require a password and the meeting ID was there, anyone could get in. The third thing was that they had made it, well, a little bit cumbersome to go through and moderate or manage one of these conferences. It was possible to do a number of things, but you had to know what you were doing. And again, remember, many of the people starting out doing this 3 weeks ago had never done it before. Final thing, when they were setting up the meeting IDs, they just ran them sequentially. And so if someone was of a mischievous mind, they could just start running down the list of numbers and see where they found themselves. And they could have found themselves in business meetings, in personal meetings, in school classrooms that were meeting. Huge hue and cry, quite reasonably so. And fortunately, Zoom has been responding to a number of these issues. You know, in one sense, Zoom got their wish. You know, I'm always amazed at people who will set up marketing campaigns and someone on staff will say, well, what happens if no one answers? What happens if no one comes to our party? And we'll plan for that. What almost no one plans for is, what if everyone comes to our party?
Right.
And Zoom found themselves in the situation where everyone came to their party. And, you know, they ran out of drinks, the chips got stale, it was a mess. So what have they done? They have changed the default so that a password is required as the default behavior. Now, once again, someone starting a meeting can take that off, but they have to take the positive action of removing the password. They've gone to a random numbering system for their conference IDs. So it's impossible now, or at least much less productive, just to start with a good conference number and walk your way through hundreds of them. When you see a screen, they have removed the conference ID from the screen, so you don't see it if there is a screen capture. And finally, they have put all of the management tools together in one place for the person who owns the meeting, as it were, so that person can very quickly and very easily go in and remove a member, mute a member, basically take care of any problem that might occur and make sure that it's a much safer and more pleasant experience for everyone. You know, in some ways, this is like what we do in ham radio. They were experimenting, and they found that, they had, to use Edison's language, a successful experiment because they learned all the things they shouldn't be doing. So now they have this list of things not to do, and to their credit, they're solving a lot of them. So I think today, people, if they go in and accept the defaults and do things intelligently, can have a very safe and productive experience using Zoom.
Oh, that is terrific. Well, that's good news, and probably the best news that many of the club members have throughout all of the country these days, the last month and a half, is how easy it is once the host posts on an email the clickable intro. All they need to do is simply click it and they're almost in. What else do they need to do to get into that Zoom meeting?
Well, in many cases, they'll find that what they do is download the Zoom app. They don't have to. It's possible to do Zoom just on the web, but it's a more pleasant experience if you download the Zoom app. And as we said, in the past, it would simply be a clickable link. You click on it, you go through a little bit of app starting stuff, and you're in the meeting. Today, you'll need to enter a password in most cases, but the meeting organizer will provide that to you. And if they're doing it in the most safe way possible, they'll do that in a separate email from the invitation. So you have those two things in two separate emails, and that means that someone who just stumbled across the invitation can't let themselves in.
Wow, that is terrific. And let's see, some of the jokes about Zoom is folks that are turned off the mute button, huh?
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. I get used to it here because I have a very abnormal setup. The magic in front of me includes a 12-channel mixer and all kinds of stuff. So the idea of having several places to mute myself is constant. And I'll be honest, more than once I've had to get that little shout in my ear that I was muted. But what people find is that in many cases they are muted when they come in by default, and that's to save some embarrassment. You know, you don't want to go into a conference thinking that you're muted when you're yelling at the kids and the dogs barking and all this other stuff. So just look down. There's a little icon. If you see a microphone with a slash through it, then you know you're muted. Click on that before you talk, and everyone will have the advantage of the wisdom you brought to the meeting.
Oh, that is great. Well, any last words of wisdom for those who have yet to take up an invitation, and I hope all of our listeners and viewers will, to get onto a Zoom meeting? Any last words?
Well, you know, I'll use myself as an example. It's important, first of all, make sure your hair is combed. That's critical. Next, if you have an exceptionally messy office, as I do, a big fuzzy blanket pinned to curtain rods is your friend. It's really interesting. One of the things that has happened as well, there are several options now for doing virtual backdrops. You can drop a photograph behind you on Zoom and on several other services so that all of your friends or coworkers will think that you're calling in from you know, the beach in Bali or wherever you are self-quarantining. But the big thing is pay a little bit of attention to your sound. Have your mic close to you if possible. Have your camera, if possible, slightly above you, because trust me, no one wants to know what's in your nose. And finally, just do it and have fun. In these days of isolation and feeling like we're apart, there's nothing like getting on a group video call with a bunch of folks with whom you share interests or geography or a business, seeing that there are other humans out there and just reassuring one another that we truly are all in this together.
That is great. And Curt, how about a plug for your show on this network?
Well, if you're at all interested in what goes on in the world of business IT, then we invite you to come over and listen to Twiet this week in Enterprise Tech. We do our filming on Friday afternoon here on the East Coast. It's at 4:30 Friday afternoon. That's 1:30 Pacific. We'd love to have you there, but if you can't be there, the folks in the control room do a masterful job of cleaning up our issues and making it absolutely squeaky clean and perfect for the podcast.
Well, you certainly made it happen tonight. Curt, thank you so much on behalf of all the ham operators, and especially those that put on meetings for the first time, not in person, but on Zoom. We love Zoom. Thanks so much, Curt. Bob, over to you.
Thank you so much for being here, Curt. This means a lot. We might have you come back again to just refresh a few people that missed it, because there's a lot of rumors about Skype. There's a lot of rumors about Zoom, and all of them are not well-founded because they don't know the foundation of all of them. And you laid it out very well. I appreciate that. Maybe I'll come and check you guys out. 1:30 Eastern on the Twit network.
4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific.
1:30 Pacific, gotcha. 4:30, that's 3:30 here. Okay, I will
and
check.
Gentlemen, honored to be with you anytime you need me. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you so much, Gordo. It's these kind of things that we're going to have to continue here on Ham Nation to keep everybody abreast of what exactly is the truth and what's happening. So you have some more. So back out to the West Coast, and let's hear what you got going now, Gordo.
All right. Well, thanks. Thanks so much, Bob. Larry at the W5YI is continuing to work with his volunteer examiners, his contact VEs, attempting to work up Zoom capabilities for remote testing. Larry says they're working on it every day, and it'll be a couple more weeks. So stay tuned, or give a call to the W5YI VEC. You can them right there, and they would love to hear from you, and especially any comments you may have on how to conduct an amateur radio examination remotely via Zoom or any other means that would be acceptable for the rules that govern our testing. Well, many times the rules that all hams go by is with their served agency that says, do not respond to any call during this pandemic, because all volunteers are on close down. Not just us volunteers, but many of the staff as well. So whether it's your police department, fire department, American Red Cross, Salvation Army, Aries, Races, Coast Guard for me, we're all sort of waiting, ready to do something. But you know, Part 97.1 has a provision that our specialty is emergency communications. So although we cannot respond without orders from our served agency, it doesn't mean that as an individual who may have property in line with the tornado that's hitting town, we can respond as an individual ham, not associated with many of our other volunteer duties. And here is one individual ham you've seen in all the ham shows, Mr. Don Arnold, W6GPS. Hi, Don. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing fine out here in Chattanooga. Things are kind of coming out. We're kind of coming out of the EF3 tornado, and so things are. We're looking up. Fortunately, everybody's doing fine in my house. No damage to my house, and no problems with my family.
Well, that's good to hear, but I think you've got some great shots here. So, Victor, if you don't mind, Don, how about, first of all, giving us the path of that tornado 2 nights ago? And so, Don, you go ahead and narrate, and I'll be all watching. Go ahead, Don.
Okay, real fine. Well, I work for the Chattanooga airport. I got off work about 11:30. But weather was bad. And my wife was watching TV just like she normally does when weather's bad. And things just started getting really kind of crazy. So I headed to the basement. The storm went by. The tornado went by. First thing I did was I grabbed my handy talkie. And as far as the tornado goes, it was 1,500 feet wide and 9 miles long. So all of a sudden, I turned my ham radio on, and they were giving reports about 2x4s and penetrating buildings. And so with that, I said, this is not a microburst. So I grabbed my radio, and the net controller just said, hey, if anybody's out in East Brainerd area, we need to get as much reconnaissance as we can. So I called in and I said, okay, I'm on my way. Now, I want you to know I'm not a part of any kind of a group. Because of my past travels going all over, I just felt like that not being a part of group was for me. So I went out, took my handy-talkie, and did some reconnaissance. And so basically, what they were asking for was what kind of damage, a description of the damage, and then they were forwarding this information up to the National Weather Service in Morristown, Tennessee. So this building right here is part of my church. This is my whole church campus. We are estimating that it's about, this is not official, about 85% destruction. And so the tornado formed about a mile to the south, and then it started developing more, hit our property, then it went down across the neighborhood and took out just a lot of houses. So I've been through a lot of things, and I've experienced a lot of things, but this was the first time that I was called. I volunteered just to jump, to get my little ham radio, and to go out and be of some sort of service for the information that they needed. That was my son's. He teaches at this school. Yeah, he teaches that's his classroom, and he uses Zoom now that there's no campus to go to, and staff meetings for the ministry. That's what we use. So it's kind of interesting technology that we have. But it all came down. It all basically came down to the fact that I had a ham radio. I was able to get to net control and give them timely information to where roads were closed, what type of damage to buildings, and so I just felt so excited that for the first time I was able to use, in 40 years of ham radio, I was able to actually make a contribution, and again, not being a part of a group, just being an individual, because the net control was desperate for information. He just basically called out, any ham radios on the net, we need some information. So I'm just very, very thankful that I could take my radio out and be of service.
Oh, that's terrific, Don. Well, we're glad that there was no fatalities. We're sorry to hear about your church and your son's teaching room getting pretty well trashed. But how are things going now? Are they restoring power and getting lines back up?
Well, actually, I talked to one of the senior managers for the EPB, the Electric Power Board, and he said it's going to be about a week for my neighborhood because the main substation took a direct hit, completely leveled it. So some areas have been restored. When I was out doing my reconnaissance at 3:30 in the morning, I told my pastor, I said, hey, we need to go to Knoxville and get some generators. And it just so happened that we went by the Lowe's. They had a EOC set up there. I walked up there. I flashed my radio. I looked important. I basically said, I'm a civilian and we need some generators. And we were the only two civilians that Lowe's let in. We got our generators. The guy took our credit card information. He couldn't ring us up. And he says, just make sure we get paid. So, that was just some big adventure for me for that night to run around giving reports. And at one time there was reports that our church was what's the word? I'm sorry. I'm so tired right now. But
Prevagen.
People meet up.
You need Prevagen.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, a reunification center. And I broke in there and I told him, I said, I'm right here on location. Please do not send that report because it's unsafe. So anyway, that to me.
Uh-oh, Don froze up. Those things happen. So Don, you see a lot at ham radio shows, and he really makes things happen on the many digital nets, the D-Star, the DMR nets. He's big time on digital as well. And I wonder, did the weather radio send out an alert? I'm sure they did. I am convinced that we need more hams with a little weather alert radio to let them know, heads up, that the big one is coming in.
Get out and be active with Icom's new IC705 and its optional multifunction backpack. The IC705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tips of your fingers and a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo, or just over 2 pounds, with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. 5-watt battery operation with BP272, or 10 watts with a 13.8-volt DC supply. Modes include single sideband, CW, AM, FM, as well as full D-Star functions, a large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, and live band scope with waterfall, integrated GPS with antenna and GPS logger, micro SD card for data storage. It comes standard with the HM243 speaker microphone, and it supports QRP and QRP-P operations. The perfect accessory for the IC705 is the LC192 optional backpack with a special compartment for your IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information about this and all the great Icom radios. And Icom wants to remind you to enter weekly at icomamerica.com/HamNation for some great swag prizes like t-shirts and hats. And the winners of that will be automatically qualified and registered in the monthly grand prize drawing for a new radio. And for April, that new radio is the Icom IC2730A dual band analog mobile with optional Bluetooth. It's a dual band, dual watch mobile with simultaneous VHF, UHF, VHF, VHF, or UHF, UHF receive, a large high contrast display, optional Bluetooth board is available, and there's a free downloadable software for programming. So go to icomamerica.com/HamNation after this and each episode of Ham Nation and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow Icom America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 2215, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. In earthquakes, hurricanes, and other natural disasters, ham radio nets help save lives. One California amateur, however, was hit recently by a storm that was intensely more personal.
Something was wrong that early Wednesday morning when Con, K6CON, tried to check into his regular 75-meter net. He could only utter one syllable, I, repeatedly. This was not the voice that Sheldon, K7ICB, had grown accustomed to hearing on the net for the past 4 years. It wasn't Con's radio having trouble, it was Con himself, as Sheldon confirmed after hearing him struggle to talk when the Montana resident reached the 81-year-old in California by landline. After calling Con's local fire department and paramedic service and getting only recordings, he reached out to Rick, K6ISP, another ham in another California county, who has checked into the net occasionally. Rick called 911, and an ambulance was dispatched to take Con to the hospital. Con had suffered a stroke that impacted his speech, but fortunately not his reflexes. A day and a half later, Con went home. You can hardly tell anything was wrong with him. He's making a great recovery. He's back on the net, checking in with his friends who are happier than ever to hear his voice again. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
Hamvention 2020 may have fallen victim to the COVID-19 pandemic, but the QSO party is still on, and Amateur Radio Newsline is participating. Newsline anchor Stephen Kinford, N8WB.
In support of the Dayton Amateur Radio Association and the Worldwide Radio Operators Foundation Hamvention QSO Party on Saturday, May 16th, members of the Amateur Radio Newsline Amateur Radio Club will be activating the WA6ITF call sign of our founder, Bill Pasternak, which is now allocated to the radio club. How about getting your radio club under its club call sign on to be part of this special QSO party to say thank you to all the volunteers that year in and year out put in the extra effort so that hams from around the world can enjoy the Dayton Hamvention. Details of the QSO party can be found at www.hvqp.org.
Remote testing is now a reality for hams in the UK.
On the heels of a similar initiative in the United States, the Radio Society of Great Britain has had approved its remote invigilation for candidates sitting their foundation exams and is working towards expanding the option to other licence levels. The Society began receiving online bookings on Monday, the 6th of April. Amateur exams were halted in the UK in mid-March as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The new procedure will allow exams to be taken in the candidates' homes via computer, and the invigilation will also be accomplished remotely. The practical assessment requirement is being waived, the Society noted, since Ofcom does not mandate the practical assessments, but is giving the Society full support for its programme of remote invigilation. The exam's fee remains unchanged. The Society said in a statement, quote, "Our focus now is to enable new people to join amateur radio during these challenging times," unquote. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
And a reminder that the nominating period for the 2020 Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Newsline Young Ham of the Year Award is now open. You'll find the form on our website, arnewsline.org, under the Awards tab. The award will be presented Saturday, August 22nd at the Huntsville Hamfest in Alabama. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, Stephen Kinford and 8WB, Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
Space weather this week is definitely calming down, at least as far as solar flux goes. As we switch to our front side sun, we had a couple bright regions at high latitudes that began to fade a little bit as they rotated into Earth view, and then we had a couple mid-latitude bright regions and thought they were promising, and then they began to fade, and now we're back to a completely spotless sun, which is too bad because it looks like solar flux might actually dip back into the high 60s for the first time in probably months. So it doesn't look like we're getting much in the way of radio propagation on Earth's day side for amateur radio operators and emergency responders. However, we do have a solar storm that looks like it's been launched just to the east of Earth, and you can't really see it on the front side view, but as we switch to our far side view, and this is stereo A and it's looking at the sun from the side, you can see on the west limb, you can see those bright regions that I talked about that were rotating into Earth view, and you can watch them kind of fade very rapidly, sadly. But right around the 15th, you can see just a little bit of puff of something, and it's actually much more visible if we switch to our coronagraph view. Right around the late on the 14th and early into the 15th, you can see it on that side, on the west side of the sun, kind of lifting off there, that big kind of smoke ring. That is a solar storm, and it looks like it might be partially Earth-directed. We're waiting for models to confirm this, but if so, we could expect maybe a wispy impact sometime around the 19th or 20th. We could reach maybe active conditions for all you aurora photographers. Switching to our moon, we are now passing through the third quarter phase on our way to a new moon, with the new moon being on the 22nd. So night sky watchers, now's a chance to get those really dim objects in the sky, and it's perfect timing for potentially that solar storm that looks like it might be hitting around the 19th and the 20th, and for the Lyrid meteor shower, which should peak on the 22nd. For more details on this week's space weather, including when and where you can see aurora if that solar storm that's coming might hit us, and how emergency and amateur radio might be impacted, check out my channel or see me at spaceweatherwoman.com.
Good stuff, Dr. T. Thanks a lot. Be sure to follow her on Twitter at Tamitha Skov and check out spaceweatherwoman.com. The tornadic activity up around Chattanooga was horrendous. We had a good bit down here in Mississippi as well. Laurel, Mississippi, about 80 miles to my north, was hit extremely hard. 12 deaths, I believe, just in Laurel alone. Thankfully, we were fine here. George, weather was kind of dicey up your way 2 or 3 nights ago as well. How did you guys fare?
We fared okay here. No tornadoes in my immediate area, but yeah, I know some of those were really strong tornadoes. I think we had at least one EF4 and one that was 2 miles wide. That is pretty wide for a tornado, but it's been kind of tricky weather here recently, and I guess it's that way this time of year, but seems a little more so here recently. But it's going to be cool tonight, around 39 here. I don't know what it's going to be down where you are, Don, but 39 is a little cool for me in April. But hey, what are you going to do? Well,
exactly.
I understand there is a new project about to be unleashed on the world here. There may be somebody standing in the wings over there who knows something about it. Maybe has a power supply.
Well,
Bob, are you with us?
Yeah. What do you do when you have to sit around and watch a lot of TV? And I don't like to watch TV, stuff like that. So what do? I looked inside my Harvey Wells, and what did I find? Well, of course, I found one of these, an 807, and that's a tube for a good 60 watts if you want to push it. So I thought, you know what? I think we ought to start a project of building a final amplifier. We talked about it for a year. So what I did, let's see if I can get the old camera to focus up here. I think I can. Come on here, dude. There we go. I came up with a really good idea, and that idea allowed me to let me see here. There we are. To build a power supply yesterday. I had some parts. They were kind of left over from the one of my Icom projects that it wasn't any use anymore, so I parted it out, and by golly, it worked out really well. So there's the power supply. It puts about 380, 400 volts, and we'll talk about it. I'll get some diagrams done, and we'll start moving on this project. So get your soldering irons out and your tools and things like that. Start collecting things, and in a week or two, I'll start giving you a rundown on the parts that we're going to need. But it's going to be simple, and it's going to be around an 807. So if you have one of those in your junk box, keep it. So that's what's going to happen, George, and I'm sure you'll get involved with me once I get going on this thing. But isn't it fun to build stuff? I mean, I built that yesterday, and when I turned it on, and whew, there you are, 380 volts. I mean, it's just wonderful. They don't always turn out like that, as you well know, when you hit that switch.
Oh, no. Sometimes you want to hit that switch with a broomstick. You don't want to be standing too close when you hit it, because that looks nice, Bob, and no solid state rectifiers there. You're going old school, right?
Well, let me see what I do with it. Anyway, I thought I had it around here. I have a solid state 4 diodes that you can plug into there. We did that for the Pine board, if you recall. So we can do it either way, but I want to do it with tubes. And if you don't want to do it with tubes, well, we'll have the little adapter to plug in, and it'll be solid state. So 2 birds, 1 stone, right, George?
Oh, yeah. And that's one thing about building projects. You've got it really nice laid out there, and all the corner square. It's not just a lot of wires piled up on top of each other. You could almost just look at it and you've got a schematic right there.
Well, you know what's coming. I'm going to be calling on Gene tomorrow, W4IQN. You remember those incredible diagrams he did. You don't need a schematic. It's better than the Heathkit diagram. So we'll have those going, and I just wanted to let everybody know what's happening. And the smoke and the solder was roaring here yesterday, and it'll be roaring in your house before long. So thanks, George. We'll stay in touch on this project.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Looking forward to seeing it develop. That's a lot of fun to see things built. And there's not a lot of tube building going on. Well, there's still a lot of people building with tubes, but you don't see it shared quite as much. So I'm glad you're bringing that here forward and going to share it with the viewers. And I'm sure we'll go over it thoroughly, and you'll teach us a lot about it as we go. Well, I tell you what, I've got just a short project that I'm working on here. We're going to take a look at in just a moment.
Well, frankly, it's uncharted territory. Very stressful, very uncertain times. But there's one thing you can count on, that is your friends and ham radio, and also your friends in the ham radio community. And you can still be certain about DX Engineering, too, because they are ready to provide you with the amateur radio gear and the weather radios that you're going to need to enjoy the hobby you love in the days ahead, and also to keep one step ahead of any type of severe weather or any other threat. DX Engineering remains open for business, and DX Engineering is proud to be able to serve their fellow operators during this time. Hams can order from more than 30,000 amateur radio products in two convenient ways. You can call the 800 number, 800-777-0703, or place your order at dxengineering.com. Always known for having the fastest shipping in the industry, DX Engineering will do its absolute best to get you your gear as quickly as possible. However, there may be some disruptions in normal business practices. Delivery may take a little bit longer than usual. That's out of their control. They ask for your patience and understanding. We're all in this boat together. And you can expect the same great customer service and technical support from DX Engineering's Elmers. Absolute professionals and experts, hams with combined 300 years of amateur radio experience. And all throughout the crisis, you'll still be able to reach them with your questions by phone or email. And like always, you can expect a prompt, knowledgeable, and friendly reply. Now, if you're in the Northeast Ohio area, you can still get your ham radio gear through curbside pickup from the DX Engineering showroom located in the Summit Racing Superstore. The store is temporarily closed to walk-in customers, however. Another way you can stay in touch with the DX Engineering and keep up with the latest in ham radios is through On All Bands, DX Engineering's blog. Visit On All Bands for articles you can use from hams who know everything from low-band DXing tips, FM satellite radio etiquette, to advice on getting your station ready for spring and the rise of the digital modes. Just check out onallbands.com and see for yourself. And finally, your friends at DX Engineering want to remind you all about the importance of staying connected. Extraordinary times like these remind us all of the critical public service role that ham radio continues to play in communities throughout the world, not just here in the U.S. with tornadoes and hurricanes, but throughout the world, no matter what the threat is. And in that spirit, let's do all we can to make sure that our fellow hams are healthy and safe in the months ahead. DX Engineering ships faster than anybody else in the industry, so most orders placed by 7 p.m. Eastern Time are shipped the same day. Proven products and expert advice, DX Engineering truly helps you shrink the globe. Request your catalog or shop online 24/7 at dxengineering.com/HamNation. And, of course, we thank DX Engineering for their support of Ham Nation.
And one thing I wanted to mention last week that I completely forgot about is this past Friday night we did Amateur Logic 142, and I had a demo on there that I'd like you to go watch when you get a chance. It's at amateurlogic.tv, but it's the most recent episode, and I talked about how to analyze what it is you're seeing on a spectrum display. You know, people have SDRs now, and most all of them have spectrum displays on them. A lot of your HF rigs these days do. But do you really know what you're looking at on there? You may be surprised exactly how it all stacks up. So I did a little presentation on that, as well as some phenomenons that I witnessed on a fading shortwave signal that I shared as well. I would recommend, if you don't thoroughly understand what you're seeing on that display, you might want to go take a look at it, because it was a lot of fun putting together, and I think you might pick up something in it. Or spending a few minutes, though, to check out. Go to amateurlogic.tv, check out episode 142. Now, this week on Smoke and Solder, you know, we've been talking about getting started with Arduinos here, on and off for a little while, and it's been a few weeks. I wanted to bring out a simple project tonight and just show you this. This is super simple. There's actually no hardware involved. It's just the Arduino Uno, and we've got a USB cable plugged into it. We don't have any other pieces of hardware wired into it at this time. This is a pretty simple little piece of code here. There's not much to it at all. It doesn't do much, but this is kind of a building block on what we're going to look at next. So I just want to show you the code here. You know, we load up the Arduino editor, and we've got the usual stuff. The top line is void setup here. You know, we've got in between these curly brackets here, we've got our setup routine that runs whenever we turn it on. What we're going to do is just turn on the serial port. We're going to set the baud rate for 9600 baud, and we're going to set one of those I/O pins on the Arduino, pin 13 for output. Now, it just happens that, you know, pin 13 has an LED wired to it on the board already, so, you know, I didn't have to wire an external LED for this. And we don't really need it for this project. I just wanted to show you that there was some activity. The next part is down here in the loop section between the curly brackets on that. The first line there is an if statement. And we talked about ifs before. If serial available, and then parentheses is greater than 0, that means if there's data waiting in the serial port, then we're going to act between these two braces right here. We're going to act on that and execute that code. Everything from right below this line to this brace down here. And yeah, we're using the serial monitor built into the software. You could use any terminal for this. What this program is going to do is we're just going to type in some characters on the keyboard on our computer, and it's going to echo them back to us. Now, yeah, you'd say, why do you need to do that? Well, we'll look at that in the next installment here. So if we do have characters waiting there, that means somebody's typed something on the keyboard. We're going to set up a type here, a character. Going to name it nchar, and we're just going to say equals serial.read, and then the parentheses there, and a semicolon to terminate that line. What that's going to do is just going to read whatever's in the serial port, and it's going to stuff it into this variable right here. The next line, we're doing a serial.print, and in the parentheses there, nchar, then the semicolon, of course. What that does is whatever character we got on this line when we read that serial port, we're just going to print it to the screen. Then the next thing we're going to do is a digital write to pin 13. We're going to set it high. What that's going to do is right here on the PC board, there is that LED I mentioned. It's just going to flash that LED whenever it detects that there's code or someone has typed something on the keyboard and we're printing it to the screen. It's also going to light that LED. The next thing that's going to happen, we're going to delay for 20 milliseconds. And the only reason I put that there is so it would delay long enough between characters that you could actually see the LED light up. Otherwise, it was so fast, you didn't even see the LED flicker. Okay, that's all of that happens if there is something available in the buffer there that we typed into the serial port with the keyboard. The next thing we're going to do right below that, and that's going to happen every time this loop executes, we're going to turn that LED off. So this loop section right here just runs continuously over and over as long as there's power on that Arduino. If it detects something's been typed, then it's going to act on this right here, print it to the screen, and turn on the LED. Now, how do we type something into it? Well, we'll just go right here to Tools, and we'll bring up the serial monitor. Top line here, we can type in something on the keyboard, and it will display right there. I've typed in a line of text. Whatever is coming back from the Arduino is going to be displayed in the window here below. Now, I've got it typed in. If I press enter, we can see it just spelled it out down here on the display. This is what it returns back to us, one character at a time. You know, we read a character, printed it to the screen. Then we had that little delay as well, so that's why you saw it scroll on the screen kind of slowly here. Now, if you want to see the LED light up, well, here it is right here. Should be right there, and I think we can probably see that. Okay, you saw it light up there. That was the length of time it took to write that to the screen with the delay on it. And then it turned the LED off. So there you go, simple little bitty program. Only a few lines of code there. Doesn't do much. It just reads whatever's typed in on your keyboard there, and then it echoes it back to you. Now, next time, as I said, we're going to take that a little further. I've got a project in mind here, but we just needed to show you how to use the keyboard to get characters in it and out of it. We did that tonight, so we'll pick back up next time, and believe me, this is actually going to be something that's useful in the long run. So there you go. A little more getting started with the Arduino. And now it is that time in the show where the chat room lady sweeps up behind us and helps us correct our mistakes and answers a few questions and basically just livens up things in the show here a little bit. And she's wearing the Twit hat tonight. I've got one of those over there somewhere.
Do you? I'm wearing this because, you know, Twit's got that logo up in the top right of the screen. It's their 15th anniversary. So happy birthday, Twit. So glad to be here tonight. And if you wanted any of the commemorative stuff for Twit, Victor's going to show us where you can get that. There we go. So you can get your 15th anniversary T-shirts, your long sleeves. Look at all of that stuff you can get. It only happens once. So they even have baby gear. Seriously, that's so cute. All right. Thanks, Victor, for pulling that up there.
So
anyone that wants one.
Off of our website, there's a store on twit.tv. So that's where you can get all these.
There you go. Or just like Google shop twit.tv or something like that. So anyhow, I did have some questions. This is the first one. So this was pretty amazing today. I'm on Facebook and on Twitter and stuff, and I'm seeing 6 meters is open and 10 meters is open. Bob, were you on the radio today at all? Did you witness any of that?
Yep. I was talking about it a while ago. In this new studio, I've worked very hard to get the studio working, especially the organ and all that, and pretty much working. But I have not put up antennas, especially ones that work. And I threw up an antenna that it was just a listen. And I showed it a minute ago. I'm not kidding. It was, of course, this is a 20-meter one, but it's not stretched out. But, you know, something like this, some wire that I've had around for a while. I threw it up on 20 meters, and I'm listening. I worked a couple guys. Okay. Day before yesterday, I'm listening on 17 meters, and holy smokes, there's all kinds of people up on 157. I'm going, what is this? And we were talking about it earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. But later on, yesterday and today, I figured I'm going to listen on 6 meters to see with that same antenna. I heard a guy coming in. It was about S8. I figured I'm going to call him. And I worked him. I was in S5 with an antenna that has SWR like you can't believe. And who cares? It works. And so there you go. It's not going to stay that way, but it's kind of fun when you do those kind of things. That's what real ham radio is all about. That at least it is for me. So
absolutely.
We're having fun.
I found it amazing, and I tried to tune in. I think I missed the boat there. Dawn, I think you posted something about it too. Did you manage to jump in on the fun?
I did. I made a couple of contacts on 10 and tried to make one or two on 6 just as it was fading out. I spent more time on 10 this afternoon after my work duties were done, and I was seeing 15 and 20 over 9 signals on 10, which I hadn't seen in I can't remember how long. 6 was not nearly as robust, but there were people all over. I mean, 6 was well populated, but 10 looked like a contest weekend. I mean, it was nuts. I made a couple of contacts on 10 today.
Nice. George, did you get to play around at all?
No, I didn't. I spent a good part of the day trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I came up with this idea, and then I sat down and wrote the code. And I wrote a lot more code than what we looked at tonight. But no, I didn't. I did get on the air last night, though. We had a little Echolink net that ran for a few hours. Had a lot of fun there. But, yeah, I miss the good upper HF bands.
Yeah, I missed it too. And they're so fast. Like, you got a 2-hour window, and most of us, well, not a lot now, but a lot typically are at work and can't do that. So that's fine. Anyhow, I hope everyone enjoyed it for that opening. Bob, the next thing I wanted to talk about is about this club spotlight and how important it is. What's been your response? How full is your email inbox on this club spotlight?
Full. And I appreciate all of them. We're trying to work through it. The situation is that we don't have a whole lot of time. We can maybe do 2 each week if we cut it down. This week I really was sad. I had to cut Ed and his group at Fairlawn out, but they'll be on next week because we preempted it with that wonderful report from Curt. I thought that was the best report I've heard about Zoom. So, yes, send me your requests. Just let me hear what's going on. hamclubs@twit.tv will get it, or the K9EID thing. You just let me know what you're doing, and we'll get together and we'll go from there. So, got to have Skype and a camera and microphone, and you're on. So, yeah, send me some emails, and we'll get things happening. That's for sure.
Now, to follow up on that question, I just want to know, can people also send their requests to this email address for maybe some of the show hosts to join up with their clubs and their new Zoom meetings or Skype chats or any of that?
Sure. Yeah, that's what it's all about. We want to hear from the clubs. We want to expose you. We want you to have fun, and especially if you are using Zoom and Skype, doing things you never did before. You can get the whole club together. I had one the other day. They had 300 people on their Skype thing, and so it's really happening, and I think it's going to help us. I really do. When all of this is over and settled, might be first of next year, but when it is, we're going to discover that we've found new avenues for communications with our clubs, and I'm already seeing that. So absolutely, send me any request, and we'll make it happen.
All right. And my next question is, so you're starting this new project. You introduced it tonight. We're really excited about it. And everybody loved following your Pine Board project. So are you going to do it kind of the same format where you're going to have maybe a question and answer forum on the Heil Sound website so that everyone can follow and find out about the parts and those kind of things?
I really messed up. I really did. I got a piece of a board. I've had it around here for a while, and I kind of stained it kind of dark. I didn't stain the other pine board. I wish I would have. But anyway, I thought, okay, I'll do this. And the next thing you know, it's 2:00 in the afternoon and I got all the parts mounted. I'm going, hey, dummy, I should have taken pictures along the way like I did with the pine board. But we'll be able to, we'll do that on the final. But on the power supply, it's pretty straightforward and you'll be able to see it. And I haven't asked him yet, but if you're listening, Gene, look, don't answer your phone tomorrow. Gene is an amazing guy. If you have not seen any of his drawings, go look at some of the drawings he did for the pine board. You don't need to read a schematic. You can just do it. And like George said earlier, all you have to do when I lay it out like this is do it. You don't have to really know why. Of course, if you got to troubleshoot it, why, there's a few of us around can help you with that. But it's pretty simple. And I plan to do that same format, Amanda.
Very good. I think everyone's really looking forward to it. All of this stay-at-home orders, they're looking for something to do, Bob. So this is perfect timing, and we appreciate you bringing this on board.
Yeah, and the other side of that will be the parts will be available from Antique Electronic Supply. You know, they have complete kits for pine board. It's in their catalog. They have a pine board power supply, they have a pine board transmitter, and they have a pine board modulator and equalizer, and you can buy the whole thing and away you go. And that's marvelous because a lot of guys don't have junk boxes around. So that'll happen. We'll make sure to let you know where you can get all these parts because you might not be able to get this at your trusty Lowe's. So we'll figure it out.
All right. And if anyone goes to their Lowe's looking for 807s, we feel for you. All right. Let's go ahead and go over the nets tonight. And first, I'd like to say hello to our friends on WTWW. Thank you so much for broadcasting us. And we appreciate that. And Bob loves to be on there as well with his Oregon music, which is beautiful. He sent us a very nice clip the other day, by the way, Bob. Thank you for that.
You are very welcome. I like to do that. Anybody that wants to hear any of it, send me an email and I'll send you some little clips. And go to YouTube, put in Bob Heil Theater Organ. There's a whole bunch of it there. So we're going to do more and more of it too. Now that this studio is working and with all the video stuff, we'll have some more time to do it also.
It's so beautiful, so I appreciate all of it. All right, let's go over the nets tonight. We have D-Star on 14 Charlie. We have DMR on 31012. And then on HF, we have 14268. Steve W7UDI is there on 20 meters. And let's see if 40 is working for us this evening, which it has not been in the last few weeks, but check out around 7192 and see if anything's happening there. So with that, Bob, are you going to wrap it up tonight?
We will do that. Well, thanks very much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure that you gained some information tonight about Zoom. That's so important. We were very happy to have the report from Don about his home and his family, that everybody was in good shape there. George was safe. On Wilbanks, everybody was good. And so Gordon and I are always looking forward to making sure everyone's safe, and especially during these times. But ham radio is a great time. It's a great time to go in and get on the air, just like I did yesterday. I didn't think I'd work anybody. Holy smokes. Sometimes I think people are watching over us and giving us the advantage to working people on the air when we don't think we're going to get out. Yeah, you will. Get on the air. Gordon and I, we're always talking about it. So we'll meet you up somewhere. But we'll have some more information next week. But get with your club. Let's get Zoom. And it is safe. You heard it tonight. Zoom and Skype. Great times to put your clubs together, because we don't have to say, oh, we can't go there. Yeah, we can go anywhere now with that platform. And hey, you can come here every Wednesday night and look what happens here. Thanks for watching.
Jeff.
And thanks for everybody's contribution tonight. We had a really great show. And we'll have another one next week, and we're going to see Fairlawn, the club. I guarantee you we're going to see that. So be watching. Thanks, everybody. Be safe, be healthy, and stay tuned.
Ba, ba,